Do you know what's on your board's agenda when it comes to equity compensation? Well, I do. That's because I watched the NASPP webinar in the room where it happens, managing equity plans in the boardroom. In this video, I'm going to present a few highlights from that webinar. Now is a great time to talk about your board's agenda because it's likely that agenda is changing. As our panelists explain in the webinar, over the past several years, there's been a significant push for public companies to expand the diversity on their boards. And all these new board members bring a fresh perspective to the table, and they change the agenda. In addition, in recent years, public company boards have been tasked with overseeing human capital for the entire organization. So in the past, your board may have been narrowly focused on executive pay. It's likely now that they are changing that focus to look at the entire organization, both in terms of pay and other programs that might benefit employees. And finally, in the 10 plus years since Dodd-Frank was enacted, there's been a strong push for boards to increase transparency around pay decisions and also to tie pay to performance. And we continue to see that play out in board agendas today. One thing that the panel explains is that your board's role is really to represent the perspective of your shareholders to management. This means that your board has to balance the HR needs of the organization with the needs of your investors. And that balancing act certainly influences the board's agenda when it comes to your equity compensation plan. It's likely that your board's agenda is both internally focused and externally focused. Internally, the board wants to make sure that the plan is adequately funded. They want you to have the shares you need to effectively compensate employees. But externally, the board needs to make sure that the plan is palatable to your shareholders. Almost all equity plans at publicly held companies are subject to shareholder approval, and your board plays a key role in making sure that your shareholders will be able to support your equity programs. Here are a couple key considerations for your board when it comes to your equity plan. The first is your company an outlier? How do you compare to your peers, particularly when it comes to your burn rate and your dilution levels? Now, this doesn't mean that you can't be an outlier. You certainly can, but if you are, you have to have a good story around that so that your shareholders will support you. A second key consideration for both you and your board is how important proxy advisor recommendations are to your investors. For some of you, those recommendations are going to be critical. For others, not so much. This is going to impact what you can and can't do with your equity plans. So it's important for you to keep this in mind when you are making proposals to your board, and it's important for your board to understand this when they are making decisions about those proposals. The panel concludes with 8 hot topics for your boards today. I don't have time to cover all 8, so I'm going to cover just a couple of them. The first is ESG. This has been a significant push for boards over the past, well, more than several years now, and we expect pressure to increase for boards to start tying long-term incentives to ESG-related metrics. Another hot topic these days is one-time special equity awards. With so many public companies really facing challenges when it comes to recruiting and retaining employees, a lot of boards are looking at issuing one-time special equity grants as a way of retaining their current talent. I have barely touched on the wealth of information that is presented during this webinar. The panel goes through 4 phases of equity plans, and they discuss what the board's agenda is with respect to each one of those phases. They also offer some really great tips for being successful when you present proposals to your board. And of course, there are those 6 other hot topics that I wasn't able to get to. I hope you'll check out the webinar today. We'll include a link to it in the show notes. I hope you enjoyed my video. If you did enjoy my video, please subscribe to our YouTube channel so that you are notified when we post new videos. Heck, even if you didn't enjoy it, subscribe anyway. Maybe you'll like the next one. Thanks for watching.